Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for the GMAT. We have been solving for GMAT math problems out of this book here, GMAT Review, the official guide, the 13th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problem that we're about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 163. The very first problem on page 163. I need to change all this thing. Today is our lesson number 79, but the page number is 163, not 162. Page 163. Problem number 77. The problem is already on the blackboard. Let's take a look at it. We are told that if n is equal to 20 factorial plus 17, and if you are stuck already, and if you do not know what this means here, 5 with exclamation mark, as sometimes people call it, people don't understand what this means, with this so-called 5 with exclamation mark is actually called 5 factorial. 5 factorial. And it simply means it is equal to 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. 10 factorial will be 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, and so on and so forth. This is 20 factorial. That's 5 factorial. So we have a quantity which equals to 20 factorial plus 17. The question simply is, if you were to divide this quantity n, it is divisible by which of the following? And these are the three answer choices. Is it divisible by 15 or 17 or 19? Now here's what we're going to do. You see, when you're taking this exam, you have two choices. I'm going to break into a little sermon here. You have two choices. You can either take the exam in a way that is very predictable. The people who give the exam, the people who write the exam, they expect you to behave in a certain way. And if you behave in the exact same manner, you're behaving like a puppet. In other words, they have the strings around you, they pull the strings and you dance to it. In other words, all your movements, all your thinking process is all predictable. You're going on a path where most people would travel. That's one way of taking the exam. Now other times you see me solve the problem, even the most complicated algebra problems, you can solve it with the algebra, in which case you're going a very predictable path, you're doing it in the manner that it should be done, the correct way, the proper way, the academic way, the orthodox way, the classical way, the traditional way, or you can do something untraditional, unconventional, something creative. In other words, cut the strings, do not behave like a puppet, don't let them pull the strings. If you remember, a few days ago, we did the problem, and I'm going to tell you exactly what it was. It was problem number 67. It was problem number 67, which I did on day number 51. Problem number 67, which I did on day number 71. In that problem, on the previous page, if you turn to page 167, you will see problem number 67. In that problem, they talk about having 10 numbers, 10 multiples of 5. Now if you watch my video, you will see what I did there. We did not do 10 numbers because that problem, the way it is laid out, had you behaved in a manner that they expect you to behave, having to do with 10 multiples of 5 would be bloody hell of a waste of time. You don't want to do that. Just because they tell you 10 doesn't mean that you have to behave like that. You can make up something simpler. You can make up something simpler and understand the concept behind it, and the same logic and the same concept and the same thinking process should apply to a scenario where instead of 10 numbers, where instead of 4 numbers, you have 10 numbers. The thinking process and the logic and the math is not going to change. We're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to start out with something very simple so that we can understand what is going on behind the scene. Once we understand what is going on behind the curtains, doing this problem will be a cinch. You understand? Like that. This problem, somebody who understands it, should not take more than 5 seconds. But you have to understand what's going behind the scene. So let's start with something simpler. In other words, what we're saying is that they're telling you that n equals 20 factorial plus 17, to which we say, the hell with it. What do we say? The hell with it. Let's make up something simpler. Something smaller. And since it is something smaller, I'm going to use a different symbol so that we don't get confused. I want to keep the two problems separate. The problem that we are about to do, a simpler problem with smaller quantity, and the problem that they're giving us. Since we are doing something with a smaller quantity, I'm going to call it S. S for the smaller quantity. 5 factorial plus 3. And the question is, then S is divisible by which of the following? And the answer choices in this case are going to be 3, 4, and 5. See what happens. Okay, let's see what happens. Here's what's going on. Here's our S. S is 5 factorial plus 3. 5 factorial plus 3. Let's divide both sides of the equation. Let's divide both sides of the equation by 3. See what happens. Let's make it 4. Let's make it 4. I want to make it 4 because I don't want the answer to change. I want the answer to be the same as the answer to the problem that they're giving you. That way we don't have to deal with two different answers. That's the only reason. That way we don't have the confusion as to what the right answer is, because the answer is going to be the same in this version and the version that they're giving us. That's the only reason I changed it to 4. So let's divide both sides of the equation by 3. Now you understand, of course, that if I have 6 plus 4 being divided by 2, I could very easily write this as 6 divided by 2 plus 4 divided by 2. Of course we can do that, because 6 divided by 2 is 3 and 4 divided by 3 is 2, 3 plus 2 is 5, which is same as this one. 6 plus 4 is 10, 10 divided by 2 is 5. Of course, I didn't have to explain this thing. I don't know why I just did that. Sometimes I get carried away. Of course you understand that. Which is same as here. So if you were to divide this quantity S by 3, this should be same as 5 factorial divided by 3 plus 3 divided by 3. Now 5 factorial of course is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 divided by 3. Now can this quantity be divided by 3? Is this quantity divisible by 3? 5 times 4 times 3 times 2, is that divisible by 3? Of course it is, right there. Of course it's divisible by 3. What about this quantity, 3 divided by 3? 3 divided by 3 of course is divisible by 3, which means S divided by 3 works. X divided by, oh, but we're not dividing by 3. I'm sorry, I changed the problem and I didn't change here. Sorry about that. Our problem is 5 factorial plus 4. 5 factorial plus 4. 5 factorial over 4. So now we have this quantity 5 times we have this quantity 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, I didn't bother to write 1, divided by 3. Is this quantity is divisible by 3? I'm getting paranoid here. I made too many changes and I want to make sure that we're doing the right problem. The problem is this 5 factorial plus 4. Is this quantity divisible by 3? Of course it is. Right there, it's divisible by 3. But then we have a plus 4. 4 divided by 3 is not divisible. 4 is not evenly divisible by 3. Since 4 is not divisible by 3, this entire quantity is not divisible by 3. It is not evenly divisible by 3. Because here we're going to get 1 and 1/3. It is not divisible by 3. This quantity, S over 3, S is 5 factorial over 4. That, if you were to divide by 3, it will not be possible. It will not divide evenly. This part, 5 factorial, will be divided by 3. But we cannot divide 4 by 3. So that's not the answer. Let's do the second one. Of course you know by now what's going on because it becomes too simple now. Obviously you already know the answer. S is equal to 5 factorial plus 4. If you were to divide both sides by 4, we'll end up with 5 factorial over 4, which is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 over 4 plus 4 over 4. Of course 5 factorial 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 is divisible by 4 right here. We just did it. And 4 over 4 is divisible by, obviously 4 is divisible by 4. So this quantity is divisible by 4. S over 4 is divisible by 4. It does divide evenly. That does work. Let's do the last one. Of course you know where we're going with it. It's very simple now. S equals to 5 factorial plus 4. Let's divide both sides by 5. And of course we'll end up with 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 over 5 plus 4 over 5. 4 over 5 does not divide evenly. 4 over 5 does not work, which means s over 5 is not divisible by, s is not divisible by 5. It does not, s is not divisible by 5 because we'll end up with a fraction, 4/5. That's not the answer. The answer is 4. That's all. 2 only. Now let's do the problem that they give us. They give us n equal to 20 factorial plus 17. Is n divisible by 15, 17, or 19. Now you see what I meant by that remark that I made in the beginning of the video. You might have thought it was very cocky and arrogant for me to say that this problem should take no more than 5 seconds, but now hopefully you will agree with me. We can clearly see 20 factorial is going to be divisible by 15. 20 factorial is going to be divisible by 17. 20 factorial is going to be divisible by 19. But 17 can only be divisible by 17. 17 cannot be divisible. You cannot divide 17 evenly into 15. You cannot divide 17 evenly into 19. You're going to end up with a fraction. There you go. Answer is 2. That's it. We're done. N over 15. If you were to do that, you'll end up with 20 factorial over 15, which works. 20 factorials can be divided into 15. I'm not going to do it out because it will take too long. But then you will end up with 17 over 15. That doesn't work. If you were to divide n by 17, 20 factorial, of course, can be divided by 17, because that's what 20 factorial means, because you have 20 times 18 times 19, 20 times 19 times 18 times 17, 17 will cancel out. Plus a 17 over 17, of course, that is divisible by 17, and this is divisible by 17, so this quantity is divisible. That works. But the last one, 19, will not work. N divided by 19, 19 can be divided, 20 factorial can be divided even into 19, but this other part, 17, cannot be divided into 19. No sir, it doesn't work. That's it. It doesn't work. The answer is 2 only. Answer is 2 only. Whatever that answer choice was. 2 only was answer choice C. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye now.